You know what people love? Still Godzilla. And welcome back to the history of Godzilla board games. This is part 2. Man, it feels like just yesterday that we were putting together the first history of Godzilla board games video. Wait, that was only a couple months ago. Who would have thought that so soon I'd be able to do a follow-up? One of these doesn't come as much of a surprise as I mentioned it in the first video. The other came as quite a surprise, so let's take a few minutes, break down what we have here. First up, we have the Godzilla Challenger series that was added to the Universus card game. Similar to a lot of my thoughts in the previous video is when you add Godzilla to a pre-existing trading card game, it can come with a little bit of mixed feelings. So I'll talk about the gameplay aspect of it, and then I'll talk about the products themselves. As far as gameplay is concerned, these are definitely not beginner decks. If you've never played Universus before and you wanted to learn it through this because you're a Godzilla fan, it's probably not a great idea. These are definitely products for someone who already loves Universus as a system and also is a big Godzilla fan. Unfortunately, since it was my first foray into Universus, there were some growing pains while learning to play it. So unfortunately, it wasn't as approachable as I was hoping. And that kind of rolls right into the discussion about the product itself. Now we have 2 decks, and you do need to buy both decks in order to play against each other if you have no other Universus. There's a Godzilla and Mothra deck, and a Ghidorah and Rodan deck. Each comes with another version of Mechagodzilla that you can also play as. My problem with these is the fact that you do need 2 of them to play. And let's say hypothetically, like in my case, and probably in many Godzilla fans' cases who see a cool card game and want to jump in on it, you need 2 of these, you buy 2 of these to play the game. Do you think there's a rulebook that is included in the game? No. You would think that each of these would be jam-packed and ready to go for people to learn the Universus system and be as approachable as possible. Not only do the decks not come with player mats or counters or other little tidbits that apparently you need to properly play the game, they also don't come with any rules. I was excited to open up and see this little booklet inside, only to find out that it's nothing but a list of the cards in the game. Now, I will say, each one of these does come with like a little booster pack where you can add cards to deck build, and I suppose that also has a lot of pull for someone who's deeply into the Universus system. For me, not so much. So the fact that the MSRP on these is $35 each, and you don't get player mats, player aids, or instructions inside, and yes, you can go on YouTube and search out rules, but that's not something you should have to do, kind of soured the experience a little bit for me. That being said, the game does have a lot of fun elements. The artwork's incredible, and I think it has a lot of potential. If you are already a fan of Universus and also are a fan of Godzilla, then it's a no-brainer. Win-win, you gotta get it. It's probably amazing from that perspective. If you're not already a fan of the system, I'd say proceed with some caution or just prepare for a lot of overhead of things you'll have to learn before you can properly play and enjoy the game. Now, how about the exact opposite? I'm really glad that the direction of this video is going to be going in an insanely positive direction after what was a mediocre reaction to Universus for myself. I think back to those moments that I mentioned in the first History of Godzilla board games video, when I was talking about my own history of Godzilla, why it's such a special thing for me. I have some pretty important core memories. My grandfather watching King Kong versus Godzilla, and that being my first sight of it at a young age. Shortly thereafter, after hunting everywhere for Godzilla merch, finding that one niche hobby shop and saying, "Do you have any Godzilla toys?" For the person to smile at me and just point at the shelf, and I still remember the joy of that moment and that feeling, the feeling of shock and excitement. It's too good to be true. I bring that up because I just felt that feeling again. Shortly after making the History of Godzilla board games video, CMON announced as a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive a Godzilla modular expansion for Cthulhu Death May Die. You can imagine my reaction when I saw that one of my all-time favorite games was getting an expansion with Godzilla in it. Specifically, the fact that he was getting his own miniature and was going to be part of a dungeon crawl, which are specific suggestions I had made for what could make Godzilla in a board game work. It felt unreal. It was that moment all over again, standing in the store and being like, well, for the 1000th time, do you have any Godzilla stuff? And the person just saying, yeah, right here. After making a long dissertation about Godzilla board games and that I'm still on the hunt for having Godzilla get good representation in a board game, spelling out some specifics of what I was looking for, Simon said, it's right there. And here it is. And I'm not going to cut corners here or fluff things up. I'm going to get right to the point. This is absolutely perfect. You'll know it's not just pandering or just saying that just because as you know, we went through tons of Godzilla games, and they've all disappointed me because of how seriously I take Godzilla and the fact that I hope it's treated right as an IP in board games. And I can, without any hesitation of a doubt, say this is the best implementation of Godzilla in a board game ever. And the impressive thing is, there's not much here. It is a very simple system that you can incorporate Godzilla into any play of Cthulhu Death May Die, which adds some hilarity to the fact that you have to imagine Godzilla, not quite to scale, trudging through the scenarios. Maybe he's going through a museum, or maybe he's going into a dungeon somewhere. It doesn't matter. It's awesome. The fact that a simple roll of the dice determines his behavior, and it adds such an engaging element of play that Godzilla can make things harder for you, but also make things easier for you, and then will help you fight the boss. But also, if he strategically retreats, you lose. There is so much weight on this little module that feels incredibly thematic when it's really only a few options of what he can do per turn. The miniature looks fantastic. The execution and richness of theme in what is a tiny package astounds me. I know going forward I'll rarely play the game without throwing this in because it's just so much fun. It has great presence on the table, it's the vibes of the game exquisitely, and has all of the fun that has been lacking in almost all of Godzilla's representation in board games previously. This is easy to use. You will be cheering for Godzilla, you'll be panicking, creating debris, he's firing his atomic breath. He's stomping and crushing things. He's fighting monsters, right? Per usual. Somehow manages to make Godzilla a challenging addition to an already great dungeon crawl puzzly experience while respecting Godzilla's legacy and making him epic, but doing it in a streamlined, simple way. Simon knows what they're doing, and I think this is excellent. For what this adds to the game in the size package it is. Not only do I think this is a 10 out of 10 and the best Godzilla representation in board games, it's probably one of my favorite expansions or modules in board games, period. And that being said, it is surreal. I have basically gotten my wish around a month later from when I wished it. If this is a one-off, it's a perfect one-off. And I really hope you can get your hands on it. If this is the start of something, I think the Godzilla IP is safe in Simon's hands, and I have so many ideas and so many visions of where they could take it if they were to take another step forward. And I really, really hope that they do. And you know, if you need someone who loves Simon games and Godzilla, well, you know, I don't know, Simon. I have to give a huge shout out and thanks to Simon for getting me this copy of the Godzilla Cthulhu Death May Die module. Not only did it make this video possible, but also has just become a hallmark of my game collection. And I'm so glad I was able to get my hands on this. I think they've done incredible work in a small package. So there you go, in the span of a month or so, we got more Godzilla games. Some with potential, but it depends. And some that are essentially flawless. Who knows, maybe it won't be too long before we have History of Godzilla Board Games Part 3. Let me know if you have any thoughts or questions, and in the meantime, keep playing board games like an animal, especially Godzilla. He's an animal, he counts.